This is the TheAndresSegovia Show.
Hey everyone, I'm Andres. Welcome to another episode of the program. Today, I have a special one for you. I did an interview with the COO and the CTO of Unplugged. It's been a long time coming, and the episode is finally here. Now, I've covered the Unplugged phone extensively, from the hardware to the software, talking about the source code and things like that. I even had the CEO of Unplugged very early on the program. And despite all the live streams that I've done to answer your questions as best I could from my experience with the device, there, of course, were questions that only Unplugged could answer. So I was able to gather up as many questions as possible from across the web, not just those of you that commented on my content and social media posts, but also those of you that have commented like wherever Erik Prince has been interviewed, for example, like anything on James O'Keefe's or Tucker Carlson or Shawn Ryan or Patrick Bet-David. I pulled comments and questions from those videos as well. So we do cover everything from the company to the OS, the source code, the phone, and what other plans on the horizon, such as maybe a Unplugged phone 2. Well, you will learn about that and so much more on this exclusive conversation that I have with the COO and the CTO of Unplugged. I'd like to welcome onto the program today the COO and the CTOs of Unplugged. Gentlemen, welcome to the TheAndresSegovia Show. Please introduce yourselves to the audience.
Andres, my name is Liran Stein. I'm the COO of Unplugged, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Andres, I'm Eran Karpen. I'm the CTO of the company, one of the founders of the company. Nice to meet you. Nice to be on your show.
Yeah, and it's nice. I wasn't entirely aware that you're one of the founders too, so I just you're the technology officer. Okay, that's good to know. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I imagine that lately it's been very busy for you guys. Today, Tucker Carlson tweeted his sponsors, and Unplug was one of them. And immediately I knew that there were going to be people chiming in. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing hits on my video of people asking questions. They're watching the interview with Ryan. They're watching my review. Some people say they don't understand it. I'm like, well, it's still in the press, and I love to see that because Google's hiding my searches again. I don't know why I do know, but they're doing it. And I have to say, with this whole artificial intelligence that everybody's pushing, from Apple Intelligence to Windows with Recall and ChatGPT, and now with who's the one doing it? I think it is all of them. Oh, Galaxy AI with Samsung just yesterday announcing even more of their AI. Everybody's going AI, but to do that, they require more data. And that's been a concern. I imagine that has been doing some public relations for privacy-focused devices like yours. I'm assuming, have you seen an uptick on that? Because I've noticed on my side, people checking out, like, okay, what's Unplugged? Every time there's an announcement, people are checking Unplugged.
Oh yeah. So on that day when Apple announced about integrating OpenAI to the operating system, and then there was also the famous tweet of Elon Musk about his employees, right? Not allow them to use the iPhones if Apple decides to do so. So we did see a peak in visits to our websites and also in orders of Apple. So yeah, it actually did pretty well for us on the PR side. It's always good to have those events that increase the awareness once again to privacy around the operating system of the phone.
Yeah, because I don't think people really understood what it all entailed into. I think it was first Apple Intelligence. Was it Apple Intelligence first and then Windows? Whatever, but the point is that the Windows one was very scary because they're taking screenshots every few seconds of everything, encrypted or not. They're taking screenshots. Like, wow, they kind of already been doing it, but now that they're really telling you, and that is a really scary prospect. That I think I have seen it. Maybe you guys can attest to this. Okay, I know some applications prevent screenshots on a phone. I think Unplugged Messenger has where you can't screenshot the text or whatever.
Oh yeah, so basically on the operating system level, you can prevent screenshots. That one of the things that we will have to consider to introduce to our new versions, the ability, because our phone supports third-party applications that can be installed on the phone. Some of them may have AI. Some of them may want to access more permissive access to your phone. We have to consider what kind of measures we need to take on our phone to protect the user from
yes
getting from those apps from getting your data.
Yeah, absolutely. Because everywhere we look, everyone wants our data. It's crazy. Well, gentlemen, I'm glad that AI is being free PR for you guys. I kind of assumed that would be. There have been a lot of feedback, a lot of reactions from people, and it still goes on to this day. And there are some hard questions I mentioned that I'll be bringing up for you guys. But I wanted to start off in talking about Unplugged itself. And I'm not going to be talking about Erik Prince. He's not here. He can't speak for himself here. Then what's the point? I'm not bringing him up for the audience. Those of you that talked about it, go check out any of the interviews he's done, particularly with Tucker Carlson and Shawn. I really recommend those conversations. But other than that, I'm not talking about Erik Prince. But I do want to talk about Unplugged itself, a company that's selling devices in the United States, but it's based in Israel. And that has brought in some questions from some of the audience members and prospect customers. Let me start off with this one. Why Israel? Why not United States based?
Well, we're Israelis, and we started the company from Israel. We did establish the USA subsidiary to sell the phone. Our CEO is based in USA. So he is a USA citizen. So the background is just we founded the company from Israel because the technology is from Israel. Reason we're not associated with the Israeli government or affiliate with anyone. We're just a private company that wants to focus on privacy.
A lot of the greatest technologies actually came from Israel, and a lot of the technologies that people use on their day-to-day came from Israel, including a lot of very popular things that everyone using on their day-to-day. For both sides, by the way, for both protection, great companies like Checkpoint, so even Palo Alto Networks that's being headed by an Israeli. So Israel is well known for providing cutting-edge technologies. On one side is the protection side. Yes, we understand. Also on the other invasive side. And perhaps this will be also a good opportunity for Eran to tell his story. And because there is this sentence that's being brought up once in a while. Eran wrote the first version of Pegasus. We're
Yes.
all very, because he was involved in that project. So maybe this is all just something around that. So perhaps this is a good opportunity to tell you your story and how you got into where we are today and to make the Unplugged.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I
so,
agree, Iran, because that was the next question I had for you to tell us, and I think it's exclusive, to get this out cleared up for people that only heard of Pegasus but don't understand what exactly it was and your involvement therein.
Yeah, so the story actually is very simple. So the two founders of NSO are a good friend of mine from high school, and when they established NSO, I helped them a little bit in the beginning of the company for the few, I would say, first month, and helped them. NSO was established with a goal state of mind to provide solutions for law enforcement. At that time, it was not very clear how it's going to be used. I know there are some rumors. It was used more the rumors that their solution was used inappropriately. But my background is only for the several few months in NSO. I was never part of the company. And basically that's it. All my life I was in the cybersecurity defensive part. I founded the Communitake, which focused on a secure device for governments, for enterprises. And during that time, you understand that there is a big gap between the privacy that can be given to enterprises and governments and the need for privacy for consumers. And we understand that it's not only about technology, because technology is important, but consumers have different requirements, and convenience is a very big part of the requirements that a consumer have. They don't have the IT, they don't have the support that is given to government officials or enterprise users that holding a privacy phone, and we saw that there is a increasing demand for such devices in the past few years because everything that is happening in the world, and that's including the big tech invasion, try to take more and more of your data. So there was a big demand, and so we tried this. For that reason, I did a switch from the defensive cybersecurity for enterprise and governments to the consumer world. But again, this is what I was doing. So for the last, I would say, 10 years, I was focusing on defensive cybersecurity solutions.
Yeah, I see. And there'll always be the concerns like, oh, someone was involved with the government and now they move over to consumer. I would think that someone that's seen the stuff would know like how to protect from the government.
You need to see spywares in order to protect from spywares. And NSO and other companies, and there are dozens of them today, they can provide zero clicks that can hack your phone. Again, security is only one part of what we're doing, and it's an important part. We try to focus also on the security part and the convenience.
Yeah, and
I think also, Andreas, there's something that's perhaps we can clarify here also, and give you also something that is a little different perspective than the American perspective, and it's an opportunity. We're both Israelis that lived all our lives in Israel, so we get a little bit of a perspective. I think there is a difference in the perception of those cybersecurity, the offensive ones, right? The offensive cybersecurity tools and their development. I think that in most Americans, I assume, in their day-to-day, they're not thinking too much about their personal safety and the threat of potential terror attacks. I mean, on their day-to-day. For us as Israelis, and not only specifically during the war right now, but in general, we have a very high security awareness. And for us, we understand the necessity of such tools to protect us as citizens from potential terror attacks, and those tools are being used and saving lives on a day-to-day basis. It is true that those tools can be used for other purposes, and we understand it, and we understand that there are places where it's a bigger concern than it is comparing to other places, right? But the mission of enabling your government to have such tools is not bad, and that was kind of what Eran is trying to say. That in the beginning of his way, he supported those guys, and I think one piece of the story that Eran was missing, which I find very interesting, is that their initial intention, the initial intention of the company that eventually turned to be NSO, was to provide means to take over the phone in order to provide you support. So it was, how you say, for peace purposes, right? And when it was pivoted to be used as a government tool, that is when the road separated and Eran established Communitake, which is a company that is purely focusing on securing phones. The developments that he made are being used today to connect smartphones with pacemakers, which requires a high level of security. So these are technologies that Eran developed. So for a very long time, Eran has been on the defensive side, and in light of this, and in the connection with Erik Prince, which has invested in many Israeli technologies, and he understands that there is a reason why this partnership was created. There is a reason why this cross-country relationship exists, and it is because it is a good fit. And I would say about Erik, I know we said we're not talking about Erik. Erik is true libertarian, and he really, really believes in the basic value of the company, which is to provide the ability for people to reclaim control over their data and over what they share. And this is the only thing that he has in mind. And he's a great partner, because he always asks, like, what can I do to help? What can we do to help? How can we make this happen? Right? I'm speaking a little bit from a perspective of like how we're building the company and building the business. So we really are loyal to our core values, and we are very acceptable to the feedbacks, both the good ones and the bad ones, right? Because we want to improve. We want to be able to expand beyond those ones that they feel and consider themselves as early adopters of this. We know that there are a lot of people out there that are still waiting to get the confirmation that this is working, this is real, right? And
Yes.
We knew when we were entering into that space that a lot of other companies tried it before, right? And I don't know if any of them, you can consider them to be a very, very successful, even now. Yes, there are solutions that are open source, free. Sure, you want to talk with us about that. And we will talk about that. But commercial companies, they did try. Maybe some of them were a little ahead of their time. Maybe some of them didn't do it well in terms of execution. But we're here to tell everyone we are fully devoted to that process. And this is why we're coming here to answer the questions, the easy ones, the tough ones. We are welcoming the feedback. We want to improve, and I guess that's it.
And I appreciate you saying that. Your company has been transparent, at least with me. I tell the audience not to boast. I'm like, hey, I got a direct line to the CEO, and that wasn't because like I asked for it. No, you guys reached out, so it was something I didn't expect. I'm like, the CEO, I'm probably being pranked here. So I appreciate Ryan's openness and you gentlemen being on to be able to set the record straight on some of these things. And I'm really glad that you put into perspective a different worldview that people don't grasp often, because Americans, depending on where you are in the States, you'll either live in relative comfort, whereas others are more concerned, they're more aware, which is why they don't go out a certain time at night and things like that, because they're more security conscious. So I think that's very valuable, what you shared there in that perspective. And just like the audience should know this, anybody that watches movies or stories, whenever there's a company that develops this great life-saving technology or whatever, the government will always come in and try to use it for their gain. Like, these stories are a bunch, so I do think it's a little unfair, as I've seen how they treated you, Eran, with like, hey, no, you did Pegasus. Like, well, did he? Because I don't remember seeing his name on it, and I'm glad that you clarified that story, because as I told Ryan this off the air, I think Erik Prince put together an all-star team for the company. For everybody to have those kind of backgrounds to come together with core values and a goal to set out, and like, dude, that's pretty huge. The only thing was like, well, the media and everybody else will always bring up the baggage or just false information and things like that, and that's kind of what leads me to these tweets that I got here from GrapheneOS. They posted something just a few days ago. This is what they said. They made a very, very long thread, and this is not the responses that they were putting to the Unplugged account on profile on X. It was their own thread that they started, and in one of the posts on July 2nd, they said, as part of their as part of marketing their products, Unplugged are spreading unsubstantiated spin and misinformation about GrapheneOS and the much more secure hardware we target. We've been aware of it for a while, but chose not to respond to it until they began doing it in direct response to us. They're claiming that Unplugged attacked them. And I haven't seen anything like that, but someone left a comment on my YouTube channel saying that Erik Prince himself attacked GrapheneOS. If that's true, I need to hear clarification on this. What would have led to something like that, if that's true at all?
Well, we haven't started this fight. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we actually like GrapheneOS. I mean, that's so funny.
We spoke quite positively about GrapheneOS. And in fact, we said that GrapheneOS is an excellent solution, and that the main problem with GrapheneOS is that it's not everyone knows how to do that. Not everyone knows how to flash out a pixel device and install GrapheneOS on it. And yes, there are tutorials. Yes, a lot of people might think it's very simple, but I welcome you to see some of our threads on the support and how we help people to place their SIM cards inside the phones. So there are people at different level of technical competency, and this is not a solution that fits for everyone. And it's a great solution that has great advantages, and we're not against it. And I think even one of the comments there was from our side was like, we don't see ourselves as enemies or something. We see ourselves as working in the same space with the same core values. Eran can elaborate on some technical differences between GrapheneOS and what we offer.
Yeah, so there are some technical differences, but eventually, we want to provide an opportunity for everyone to get a device just, from the store without unlocking the bootloader, without flashing, things that normal people cannot do. And, they claim that it's very easy, but again, what Liran said, we are getting support tickets about people that do not know how to replace the SIM card, or even that there is a SIM card. So I would say that flashing a device is something that might be a little bit more complicated, for them. But, GrapheneOS is a very, very good project. It promotes privacy. We're really liking this project. And in fact, to be honest, personally, I would love GrapheneOS to approach us and, tell us they want to support our device. We'll be more than happy to assist our hardware to be supported by GrapheneOS. And one of the advantages that we have, that we are controlling the hardware. Unlike Pixel devices that, GrapheneOS are working on Pixel devices, which owned by Google. Google are controlling the supply chain, and devices are going out, stuff like that. And we decided that we want to control everything. We want to control what components are used on our phone. We want to avoid the Chinese supply chain when it comes to critical components. So that's very important stuff that we're doing to promote privacy. And again, we would love to see GrapheneOS working on our device. We have our own product, our own operating system, but it doesn't mean that we want to block someone else from working on our device.
I didn't know that this was going on. I only heard a little bit from some people leaving comments on my videos, but I would ask them, where did you hear this? Send me a link, please, because I am interested in this, because it's my job to look into this stuff. And no one ever sent me a link. And the only reason this came up was because I think I might have mentioned on this at the top of the recording is that Tucker Carlson, his X account, tweeted about Unplugged and the promo code and such. And so that's where someone posted the thread. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I read the thread, and towards the end of that very, very long thread, which I actually appreciate that they summarized it, from what I understand is the original post was Unplugged talking about the Unplugged Messenger app, and a user, an X profile, asked, how is this safer than GrapheneOS? Graphene responded and asked, where did they make this claim? So it seemed to me that even they never heard of it. No one's ever heard of it. And then the user brought up and said, oh, I'm not saying that Unplugged said it. I don't mean any confusion. But that started a back and forth between Unplugged that's then devolved into what I felt was uncharacteristic attacks against the company. I'm like, this doesn't sound like it's a conversation anymore. It feels like it's throwing insults, and it kind of goes back to the original statement that I made, that people will buy Unplugged based on they know Erik Prince, or in this case Eran. They know you, they'll buy it because of that, or they won't buy it because Erik Prince and Eran. And it felt more like that, and I think it was a little unfair. That's why I wanted to give you guys a chance to respond, and I hope Graphene.
There were allegations here about us trying to make profit. So I'll say it out loud: we are trying to make profit. Unplugged is a company for profit, yeah. The non-profit, and this is part of the business model. If we want to have a broad reach, we want to be able to do marketing. If we want to be able to provide a valuable service to our customers and have support agents available to answer questions and to support the customers with their phones, yes, we need to charge our customers. And it's our responsibility to provide them with the value that we charge them for. Otherwise, they will not buy from us. And we are so open source, of course, is a contribution. It's a huge contribution to the community, and we are using open sources by ourselves. But I don't think we should feel bad for being a commercial company that is trying to make a great product that will provide people with great value and will help them maintain their own values, which is to have control over their data. And we are strongly against solutions that give you the feeling that it's private while they have. I'm not talking about Graphene, right? I'm talking about all the solutions that are being all the products that you're getting for free, and you think it's private because it says end-to-end encryption and it's free, right? But at the back end of it, a lot of data is being collected and misused and manipulated, because otherwise, how would they afford this super expensive infrastructure services, right, that they're offering? So we're coming up front with a very clear model. Yes, you will have to pay for it, but we will give you the value in return. And if we will not give you the value in return, you will not buy from us. So it's our interest to always give you the value for what you're paying, right?
On that same thread from July 2nd, one of the later things they posted, they're claiming that Unplugged is also infringing on the open source licensing multiple products, including TheAndresSegovia, where they ripped off their AV from without attribution. They even still used TheAndresSegovia servers without permission. Skewed Zeppelin is the lead developer of TheAndresSegovia, and in that picture, which is hard to see, you can see it here. Yeah, they don't really name Unplugged per se, but this is back in October 2023. It says their antivirus is a GPL violating fork of my Hapitia, and they even still download databases from my server, Virus Total. Also see questionable apps they have, etc., etc. I don't know what apps they're talking about. This was the only thing that was provided in to make that claim. I guess I'll give you guys a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, so back in September, so we actually haven't released our products yet. So the iPhone was not really available, and we built our antivirus. One of the engines that we used was Hapitia, and we're now rebuilding everything. In fact, we're going to release a new version of our antivirus. We're not going to violate, all antivirus will be open source, so this is something I'm going to tell you for the first time. A new antivirus will be built from several engines that will scan your phone, and the whole source code will be available to the public. So that's something that will happen in the next few weeks.
Okay.
But in general, like any company, we are using open sources. We are giving credit. If you go to our apps, you will see there are a bunch of open sources that we're giving credit to. Our entire messenger is built on an open source that we add some layers to. So, and we're giving credit to the community. We're not trying to avoid giving credit. We're not hiding the fact that we're using open sources. And if there was a case where an open source was not given credit to, then it's a mistake and not intentional, and it will be fixed. But as Eran said, I think this
so the whole antivirus is going to,
again.
Yeah, so the Hapitia is actually one of the engines that we're using and we're going to use. and the whole thing is going to be open sourced really, really soon.
Yeah, the entire code of the antivirus will be open for everyone.
All right. That actually was going to lead me to the next section, which was talking about the device and the OS itself. But because we were just addressing some of the company, the structure, some of these allegations that were thrown out there. Is there anything else you'd like to add to anybody with respects to how your whether it's the day-to-day or whatever we've discussed so far?
Perhaps just one more sentence about the open source. So we are we're right now here in the United States. We're in Tampa, in the United States, where we are after a full week of team meetings, especially sort of a strategy workshop that we have done. A big part of it was also to incorporate a lot of the feedback that we're getting and start addressing it and transitioning it into a work plan. And you know, it's we're still relatively young company, and we're working a lot according to customers' feedback, and our intention is to always improve over time. And one of the things that we've resolved, and this connects to just the last topic that we spoke about, is that we are going to also expand our development team to have more engineers that will be focused on contributing back to the open source community. So in a lot of those projects that we are utilizing right now, we also feel that we should also give back. So we will share some of the adjustments that we already did and try to push them into the existing projects, but also allocate resources to contribute back to the community that of the open source, which we are using also to make our products.
Oh, that actually sounds really good. Yeah, because that actually sounds really good. I did want to chime in with a little bit of my own bias here with respects to people that don't understand how businesses are run. The accusation that this company was grifting, like, oh, they're grifters, they're just trying to grift. If that were true, why wait 2 years to launch a product? Why not just buy some off-the-shelf thing, slap a label on it, and call it yours? For 2 years is how long this company's been in development, and I haven't seen a sale happen in those 2 years until the pre-orders went up. So I just wanted to lay things out for the audience that I think it's very unfair in that respect. Ryan himself, on the conversation that we had, was talking about, he kind of pumped the brakes on everything. He's like, we got to do this right. And even in doing it right, it was not going to alleviate some of the attacks that were going to come from those that just are there to, to disagree for whatever reason. So I just wanted to put that into perspective, and that I think it's important to realize that the company wasn't making a dime until they made their first sale, and that would people work for free? So it's not like you guys are a for-profit company. So I think that should be laid out for people to also understand, and that gives us an opportunity to shift over to the product and service that you guys are providing with the Unplugged phone that I have here. By the way, I don't even know if I've given enough credit for it. I do like how this reflects in the light. When you're out in the daylight, it looks even better. So because sometimes like, oh, it looks like a black slab. No, it's actually pretty gray, and it does an excellent job at resisting fingerprints. So that's a kudos to y'all. Just letting you know about what went into the design language here. There were some questions that I initially asked.
Let me jump in there for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
There's actually an interesting story about the back, because we were considering two options, and I also wonder, like, for the people that are listening, and we will read the comments and we will see there. So we were thinking of doing one more type of back cover, one more SKU of the product, with a sort of a transparent back cover that allows you to look a little bit into the circuit. It will be nice, like aligned with our values of transparency. So
yeah.
It will be nice to have a back cover. So it is still something that we have on the drawing board, perhaps for the next version of the app phone. So we'll be interested to hear what people are thinking about this.
I remember loving it when HTC did it. HTC did it with their U11, I think, and then U12. They had a little bit of a transparency. It still had like a tint of whatever color it was, but you could kind of see through. So I thought that was pretty cool. No, I could tell you, I think it's pretty cool. I think you should do it.
Actually, we did some experiments to see how it looks like, and The biggest problem is that most of the device back is the battery, so you don't see a lot.
You don't see.
Yeah,
No.
but it is cool, and like to hear the audience what they are thinking.
Yeah, and I
About
wouldn't
some-
necessarily say that's entirely a bad thing, because some people have seen the back of the phones like without it, like, oh, it looks ugly. But if it looks clean and organized, sometimes they have to like think about the designing, not just the components that they're going to put in there, but how they're going to put in there, so it could be photogenic. That requires some extra engineering just to consider that. So just it takes work. I don't think people understand just how much work even that takes to how to put the components in. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see though. Yeah, people chime into the comments. They said they're going to check it out. This is going to be across every video platform. And for anybody that's curious, you guys know the drill. However you're watching, however you're listening, the show notes accompany this episode at www.TheAndresSegovia.com is going to have every single source that I'm listing here, including that which I couldn't get readily on time for press, will be on the show notes. The initial thing that sparked this whole thing between Graphene and Unplugged will be there as well. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so now I had some questions that I initially sent to Ryan before he and I really got connected. He did answer them, so I'll let you guys answer it publicly here, because I actually realized I never published them. I kind of kept it close to the chest, but we already know that this phone launches with Android 13. As soon as I got my device, there was already a firmware update, and it was promised that it will eventually get Android 14. How is that looking? When can users possibly expect Android 14?
Okay, so the work. So we actually in those meetings that we had this week, we actually decided about the timeline for Android 14. We're going to start the work on Android 14 in the next month. So this is part of the big things that we're going to try to do on our device. Part of them are related to the software, but also going to do things that will allow us to sell the device in more international markets. So Android 14 work will start next month.
Before the end of the year.
Yeah, so we hope that before the end of the year, hopefully much before the end of the year, we'll have a firmware update that will include Android 14. Of course, we'll continue to update the device until the Android 14 with the security patches, new features that we're currently working on. So Android 14 is expected soon.
Expected. Okay, good. Because for some that might hear, is like, wait, still the end of the year, isn't Google already launching Android 15, which I'm actually testing on beta on a Pixel Fold. So yes, that's true. But before anybody gets too outraged about it, Motorola still hasn't released Android 14 to their Razr lineup. So just giving you a heads up, it really is a manufacturer to manufacturer thing, and really the economies of scale. And I know you guys have to allocate your resources strategically, not just like throw everything there and something else falls apart. That's why those meetings that you're a part of are important. And as a business owner and operator myself, I totally get where that's coming from. But as a fan of tech, of course, I want to see Android 14 sooner rather than later. But it's got to be done right, or it's gonna break functionality of the phone. So you got to get it done right. But at least the security patches are very important. At least getting those in the meanwhile will be imperative. So that actually brings up the question though. In seeing just how much resources and effort takes to do the OS update, how many OS updates can users possibly anticipate for this? At least versions of the OS, like support for it at least.
Yeah, so typically we want to first to provide an update to our firmware every, I would say, 1 to 3 months. That depends on the urgency of the update and the new features that are released. We'll try to provide a long life support for the device, as long as the chipset manufacturer allow us to support it, as long as Android is version that compatible with our phone and our hardware. Even when we'll jump to the next hardware, it will take some time, but we're not going to drop the support for this device.
Okay. gentlemen who have been mentioning about the open source, and what seems to be the running theme across every social media platform, every single video post, mine and others, some people are saying it's closed source because the source code has not been published. But I hear that it will be published, or at least some form of it will be published. Are we talking about the OS? Are we talking about the apps? Both? Or what's being published?
So we're soon going to announce officially what we're going to expose to the open source community. So the antivirus will be the first part that will be released as open source, and we will announce more pieces of our software code that will be released to the public. I would say that unfortunately I will not be able to release everything. Some of the code is protected by licenses that do not allow us to release it. But we'll do our best to release as much as we can and to contribute to the open source community.
Right. So that would mean that some part of it is closed source. And if that's the case, this is where some of the concerns do arrive, because for those that are techies, they would know what it means to publish a source code. I'm not going to pretend and sit here that I know how to read that stuff, because I don't. But I know the importance of it for those that are involved in that. If it's closed source, then that does bring up the concern about, like, okay, but why and who is keeping it closed? What would you say to that?
Well, so I understand we are a privacy company, and our goal is, to give privacy to the users. Unfortunately, some of the source code we cannot open, or it's not relevant to the public. But again, our goal is to reveal as much as we can, or as much as possible from the source code. That even GrapheneOS, for example, so they are based on AOSP. AOSP is open to the public, and we are also based on AOSP. But some levels of the code cannot be exposed because there's, for example, driver binary, stuff like that, that are given by Google in the case of AOSP. So those parts are not open source. We have those parts, but due to licensing issues, we cannot open the source code in the same way. Google is not revealing the source code to Graphene or other open source communities. So in that term, we are a little bit limited in what we can contribute or give to the community. But I can state, I can tell you that our decision as a company is to try and give the maximum that we can to the public as an open source.
I don't know if you want to chime in there, Liran. If not, I could move on to the next one.
No, I agree with Eran. There are certain limitations that we can do, but we want to gain trust. We want to gain trust, and we will come up with also additional ways along the way to give people more confident with what we have. So there's more to come, and this is something that we are aware of, and we will find a way to increase the transparency around that, starting from exposing codes right in the immediate term. Like as we said with the antivirus, people will have the opportunity to start looking under the hood and about the work that we're doing. I also remind you that we did have a bounty program. We switched recently to a new website. Some of the pages are down, but we did have for a very long time a bounty program where we encouraged people to try to hack into our a messenger and to get a private key to a crypto wallet that was exchanged between two users, and anyone who could intercept that can take by himself the $5,000 worth of crypto that were in that wallet, and we promised another $20,000 worth of prize to anyone who will also tell us how he did it. This was running for almost 2 years, and money is still there. So I guess it's also, and we've seen some attempts on our side for people trying to reach our servers in different ways, but none of them succeeded. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what sometimes flies under the radar, and I always try to mention it every chance that I get, that there is a bounty program for those that are concerned about. So one more question about the whole source code thing, though. Are we talking OS level and the apps, or the apps are the ones that some of them have proprietary code that cannot be published entirely?
No, so for the apps, there is no, so it's proprietary code by us that will be released to the public in the long run. Whenever we decide, we're doing it step by step, preparing everything that can be released as an open source, and we'll do it. Again, I will explain again for the operating system level. So like many of the phones of the custom operating systems that exist on the market, that are built on top of AOSP, like we do. But AOSP is only one layer, very big layer, but only one layer of the code that is running on your device. There's another layer that is related to drivers and hardware-related components. And this layer is written by the hardware manufacturers. If you take AOSP, the open source project, as an example, and what Google are releasing to the public, so they're releasing AOSP, and the driver level, the hardware level, is not released as open source. That's just giving the binaries of the code, so someone can build the operating system. We, as the manufacturer of the phone, we have a greater visibility to those layers, unlike those custom operating systems. But unfortunately, due to legal issues, we cannot reveal this source code to the public.
I'll leave that topic at that. I think you explained what you needed to explain, and the audience will just, well, they'll make up their mind one way or another. But that does lead me to talk about some of the apps that are available right now, because you talked about some features that are coming. And one of the big features, and this kind of ties into all the talk about security and software, is the Unplugged Messenger app includes a wipe feature. And Erik Prince himself has talked about it. I think it was to Shawn when I first heard it. The OS level, to wipe the entire phone. And yeah, I'm assuming this is the feature you guys are working on, right? At the OS level, to wipe the entire phone.
Yes, and I also can tell you that you don't have to wait so much time until this feature is released. We're going to release this on the next firmware update. It's going to take a few weeks, but that's the time frame for this feature to come.
Well, that really sounds exciting, because I do want to put that to work, because I don't mind testing it myself. But this does remind me of a service that existed called the BlackBerry Protect. Are you familiar with this?
Not much.
Okay, BlackBerry introduced this back when they still had their legacy OS before they transitioned to QNX. The idea was to be able to wipe the device in case, for whatever reason. And that could also be done remotely, where you can go to a website, type in your thing, and then it'll ping the phone and then wipe it completely in case someone stole your phone, you forgot it, or whatever reason. Yeah. Is that what we might experience with this, or it has to be done like here?
So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm familiar with this feature. So at the moment, we are for the next firmware update, we're going to release this feature. So you will have a secondary PIN code that will allow you immediately to wipe the entire content of your device. It's very useful if someone asking you to unlock your phone and you are really concerned. So you can use this PIN code to unlock your phone, where actually it will wipe the whole device. A feature that was mentioned by you, so remotely wipe the device, it's definitely part of our roadmap, and we will announce when it will be available. But for the next version, we're only talking about the PIN code factor. Yeah,
gotcha. And I'm glad you elaborated on that, because that's always been a feature that I missed the most. I've never had to use it, but it's very important nowadays with everything of our lives literally being on the phone, which is why these companies want our data so much. It's invaluable, and I haven't seen anybody else kind of introduce it other than Apple's Find My Device now, whatever, and Google now also launching that very thing. So I think that's if you guys can also have your own competitive offering without having to be with big tech, that would be a huge win. So that answers that question. Now I'm getting over to kind of the wrap up here, because we talked a lot, and some of the stuff might overlap, so I don't want to repeat what ground that we already covered. And I appreciate you gentlemen's time for being on the program. So I want to talk quickly about the Unplugged store. I did see some conversations going on, and I guess I'll say that I think Ryan might have mentioned it too, about the possibility of the Unplugged App Store having its own website so people can check out certain applications. I think I saw that on some of the profiles. Is that something that's still in the works?
We're working on it. Yeah, it's currently being developed by our team. One of the feedbacks that we received is that when someone wants to purchase the phone, he wants to know which applications are already on our app store. Now, of course, we allow and encourage users to ask us to add more applications to the store, and we're doing it on a daily basis. We actually have a full built-in support flow in our support app in the device that allows you to ask for more apps and try to give a very fast response time. But this feature was requested by us. We're currently working on it, and we will add it. So we'll have a web access on your web browser. We'll be able to see which apps are available on our app store right now.
That kind of answers my questions about some of the features and things that people have been asking. So this kind of ties back a little bit to the wipe feature, though, because this was given to me today by a user, and this is a question that this user asked on YouTube. I don't have the username, so sorry, no shout out for you. So if the phone is confiscated by some authorities, what is the policy of Unplugged to providing the passwords to gain access to the phone?
So there's one sentence that we find that people really like, and it is, even we don't have access to your data. So as much as we want to, even if we really, really want to help, we don't have access. We don't have any feasible way to generate your encryption keys. We cannot. Just simply can't. Anyone who's familiar with the protocols of Matrix and Element, those are the open sources that the underlying technology of the messenger knows that we cannot do that. And we also take the measures to ensure that we cannot do that. So our policy is, first of all, not to assist anyone, right? But even if we want to, there is no way. Data is encrypted. The way encryption works is that you encrypt stuff, and there is a key, and only that key can unlock it. The keys are being generated by the clients themselves, by the messenger clients. We don't have a centralized generation of keys that we can somehow have access to it. So we don't have any way. That's, by the way, for good and bad, because some people reach us and say, "Hey, I logged out and I didn't back up my keys. How do I get my conversations back?" And we say, "You don't.
You don't." Yeah.
Exactly.
We want to know as less possible about our users when it comes to their, privacy and their private stuff. We design our system in a way that we don't want to know anything that is not necessary to run our services.
Well, let me read the second part of this question. It says, is this phone just a phone with an off switch that combines an Android OS and apps, or does the hardware go further? I think it's the hardware kill switch that they're referring to. It's pretty much it. It disconnects the battery from the device, right?
Yeah, so there are some accusations that, because some companies, some attempts in the past, took a Chinese device and branded it. No, we built everything from scratch. It's our design, our proprietary. We used our supply chain, the components that we wanted to be used on our device. So yes, it's our device. It's not based on any other device. We design it in a set of mind that want this device to give the users what we feel the user should be given.
It took 2 years for a reason, because the development part was very extensive. We changed a few, even for those who followed us from the earlier days of 2022, they even saw how the device is changing, and how the first mock-up that we created of how we want the device to look like changed over time until we reached now to the current configuration.
Gotcha. And I do have one more question. It's more of a clarification, because when I covered Unplugged, my mission has been to be accurate with whatever I'm reporting. I don't want to be first to the game. I'm always like, no, I want to study these things. So I did get, and I never published it, the entire spec sheet about the Unplugged device. I want to make sure I didn't read something wrong and then reported it wrong, because regarding the cameras on the Unplugged phone, if I recall, the spec sheet referred to this as being Samsung, and
Correct.
Someone else was telling me I'm incorrect and telling me that they're Sony-built cameras.
No,
It's okay.
simple answer: Samsung cameras. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I knew I was right, but it's like everybody that tried to correct me, I'm like, but where is your source? And someone, Erik Prince said it. It's like, send me the link where he said it, and at least send me something so I could refer back. And I never got anything, so I never brought it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. I was right. So, and that's why I've appreciated your time here, gentlemen. That's the last question I want to leave it on, and don't hang up yet, because some things I wanted to run by you afterwards, but. With all that's being said, I don't hide my biases. I told you this from the onset. I'm rooting for you guys to win. It's succeed in the space that is desperately needed. Other companies, like was mentioned, they were ahead of the curve, and there's others that definitely are grifting and have targeted the same demographic of this audience. And because they've been burned in the past, they don't trust it. I already asked some of the really hard questions about can we trust it kind of thing to Ryan. So I'll refer people to Ryan's responses there. And you gentlemen responded to the heavier onset things with respects to the OS and the phone itself. But you guys are in it for the long run, I see, and you guys are working on hopefully getting generation 2 of this. So there actually is, I just remembered, another question for the curious onlookers. If Unplugged is still taking non-internal testers. I don't know what they mean by that, but they told me to ask if Unplugged is taking internal testers. I don't know if they mean the software or even possible hardware in the future. Where could people sign up if that's an offering that you guys make?
So at the moment, we don't have any program that allows users outside of the company to test, but definitely one of the things as a growing up company, we may consider doing such programs.
Okay. All right. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Take it as a feedback. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, because feedback. Alrighty. Well, gentlemen, I'll leave the last word for you guys. A lot was said, but is there anything else you'd like to add for the audience to know or anticipate? Feel free to plug it in here. No pun intended.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to have us and let us say and respond, because we saw a lot of comments in Twitter and YouTube and all the channels, and some of the things are just wrong or inaccurate. We believe in our mission. And we are here for a cause. I know that some will always question us, and that's fine, and we are here to give the answers. We are here to give a good product to our users, and we will love to see and hear some of the feedbacks about what we said today.
Yep. And so Ron said, we're very happy to be here, and I can tell you after this week that we spent here, there are a lot of good things coming. Don't have to wait a long time for them, but even in a short time, we are going to announce some things, starting from distribution to Canada, question that coming up. So probably by next week, we will officially announce that we're starting to distribute to Canada, and we're hoping to be available also in more regions around the world. We just want to make sure we can support it. We're not just after getting the devices out there. Everything we do, we want to make sure that we can provide excellent customer experience and support. So yeah, a lot of good things are coming soon.
All right. Well, and anybody that's interested in learning more about the Unplugged phone as it is can go to www.unplugged.com. They can check it out there. That's where I'll leave it. Gentlemen, thank you for being here on the program. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And there you have it. For those of you interested in the resources that I referenced on this episode, you can go to TheAndresSegovia.com and find the show notes accompanying this episode there. If you want to learn more about Unplugged themselves, you can go over to Unplugged.com. And as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I put an episode out. And follow me across the socials at TheAndresSegovia on X _AndresSegovia. And I'll see you in the next one.